Welcome back to the shop, everyone. It is a good day today. It's the weekend, so I'm back out here on the 78 YZ125 build. Going back to part 2 of our build series, when I had first opened this engine case, I had made some comments that I was very pleased with the way this transmission looked, and overall I was, but believe it or not, I did discover an issue. First gear on the countershaft actually has a chipped off tooth right here, and of course that rides against the primary gear on the immediate shaft, and because the way the tooth was chipped off, when they run together it caused premature wear on the outer edges of the teeth and has sharpened up these teeth, so this shaft has too much excess wear, and when it'll go against one. So I did some digging at Recycle. I was able to find a replacement shaft in really good condition and a new gear. I've got her down in here already. The only thing is we were experiencing a small regression in technology. The gear I'm using is from a 77, and this gear, the 1978, in 78 they bored out the gear and ran a bronzed bushing inside there, and the 77 was just machined right to shaft size, and of course the metal is hardened. I'm hoping that's not going to be an issue. I do plan on running a quality oil, and remember, if you put quality oils in your transmission and change them regularly, oil does not just simply suffice as a lubricant. Quality oils have cleaning properties as well, and they keep that transmission clean, keeps the grit out of there, and of course we know grit and shavings and whatnot cause wear when the gears start grinding on their wear surfaces. So just, something like, we've got a lot of Maxima product at the shop, Motul as well, really high quality racing oils, and I think it's important that people remember to use that on there. So moving along though, I also did put a new connecting rod on the crank, a new pin, a new bearing, and new thrust washers. I've also got new crank bearings in both of the crankcase halves and crank seals, some new bearings in the transmissions, the ones that required replacing. I've painted the case just a flat black, just to kind of match the original finish, and that's where I'm at on the engine. So later on today I'm going to try to get this bottom end buttoned up back together. I won't finish the other side yet. I'm still searching for some Kickstarter parts, but that's coming along shortly. I believe I've found some. I just got to clean them up and make sure they're the proper ones. Other stuff going on, I'll show you in the video here a little later on, but I've got the frames are painted and ready to go. I've painted up my triple clamp parts. I've rebuilt one set of the forks. I've rebuilt shock. My swing arm is painted, and I've got the little chain tensioning mechanism on the swing arm ready to go as well. So I'll be just showing you that here shortly. Just gonna get some of this stuff going on here, put this back together, and I will return in a bit. Okay, so I've got my case sealant all on. I prefer to use Permatex Ultra Gray. It's become my favorite, and over many years of doing this, I've never had any sealant related issues. There's other great sealants. There's Motobond, there's Yamabond, there's a couple other, there's a Loctite brand, I forget the names, 9 on 11 or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember. But anyways, so now we're just gonna squeeze this together. Now I've lent a friend my crank installer, so I'm gonna try to squeeze this together just manually, hoping I can find the sweet spot and get her to go, but it is already seeming to offer a little bit of resistance, so may have to employ some tapping techniques, or I'll get a clamp on here. So just off camera there, I got a soft face mallet and I gently tap these down. I failed to mention to you too, it's important when you're putting your cases on, your cranks and your bearing, sorry, your crank back into your bearings and through the seals, use a little bit of lubricant on the seals. I mean, it always helps everything slide on, and it also prevents the lip from catching and twisting back in on itself. And sometimes when that happens, the little seal spring that's around it can come loose. Speaking a little bit further on the Permatex Ultra Gray, one of the main reasons I prefer this product over many of the other moto seals, etc., is the others I've tried in my time seal very well and do a fantastic job, but they adhere so hard to the cases when you go to re-clean it off. Let's say you split the case back down. It's like chiseling concrete off. It's the most horrible stuff most of the time. This product comes off very nicely and does not break down under contact with oil and whatnot. The seal works very well, and I'm really happy with that product. One last thing we want to talk about too, when you put an engine together and you compress it, make sure you don't put great gobs of sealant on, because it squishes out and gets into the crankcase, and you don't want that crap all in there. The other thing is, once you put it together and tighten up your bolts, you want to go around with a nice clean rag and you want to wipe the product off like that. You don't want to leave gobs of silicone sticking out everywhere for the world to see that you are a messy mechanic. Yeah, take some pride in your work and clean that up really well, and you'll get a reputation as a person who can do nice quality work. So I'm just gonna put my crankcase bolts in. I'm not gonna bore you with that. I'll finish that off camera and I'll clean that up, and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so all our case bolts are in now. Next will be, I could install the stator stuff on this side. I probably won't do that yet. I can build the top end on here next. Then I can start the other side. I can put the shift shaft in, the new seal here, the new seal here, and get this buttoned up. Probably going to move on to just showing you some of the other components that I've prepped and gotten ready for the build. So we'll carry on with that now. So I just want to show some of the progress I've made on a few of the parts, the 78YZ125. So I have both frames painted and ready to go. I'm just going to remove the old bearing races. I left them in just to protect the surface inside here so it didn't get built up with paint. And then I just scribed the line here a little bit with an X-Acto knife and knock the race out. And I scribe it so that it doesn't chip the paint way out to the edge. Another thing I've done is I've got my shock rebuilt. That took a little bit of fooling around. Up in this area here, inside, there's a free-floating piston in here. I couldn't find a spec anywhere on exactly how much room to give that, so I kind of just used my best guess, knowing what I know about like the KTM White Power WP suspensions. They go about 110 millimeters on the free-floating piston, and the reason for that is you pressure this area here up with about, on this particular shock, 150 pounds per square inch of nitrogen, and with the shock shaft travel fully compressed, it actually compresses the free-floating piston into the nitrogen area about 10 millimeters. So that pressure under that full bottomed situation will actually increase, and in this case, using that 110 millimeters will approximately increase the pressure by 9%. Just to put that in perspective, if you had only 20 millimeters of free play and you fully compress your shock, that would take up 10 millimeters, and your 150 psi would now spike to 300 psi. So that's one thing you got to be careful of when you're rebuilding shocks with free-floating pistons, is make sure you try to find a spec for that volume, that area. Another piece that I have ready finally is my swing arm. I've repainted the swing arm. A lot of cleaning, a lot of filing out grooves and stuff from where the chain had derailed years ago. In some of the fine scratches that were just a little too deep, I did actually put a little bit of auto body filler. I don't see any harm in that. The aluminum isn't damaged. The true restoration way would of course be to TIG weld that back in, but I didn't feel it necessary in this case, since this is my own bike. This little chain adjuster setup is quite a over-engineered piece of complication. I mean, on today's bikes we just have a neoprene or aluminum and sorry, maybe neoprene is the wrong word, just a polymer chain slide or an aluminum and polymer. This has a full pivoting piece. There's actually a block of UHMW that goes in here. That's also a plastic material. All these little pieces, the new roller we made on the lathe. But I've got the parts ready to go, so I'm gonna get that all bolted together. I just gotta paint my caps that go on here. And then the rear suspension can be installed back into the frame. So I'm really excited to see that. I'm just actually waiting for the paint to dry on my bottom triple clamp. The top one's done and ready. My forks are rebuilt. Got my new fork gaiters as well, so I'm excited to get that on, and gonna get my wheel cleaned up next and mount the new Dunlop tire, and we'll get back with you guys on this fairly shortly. Okay, I got the bearing races knocked out of the steering head. I've gone around and taken a 6mm by 1 tap and tapped all the paint out of the mounting holes. I got the swing arm caps back on, the swing arm. The shock is mounted in. Our bolt there is cleaned up and ready to go. We also got this mud guard protector on here and the little rubber for the shock. So that's all in. And we also got the brand new Dunlop tire for the front mounted and ready to go. So once the paint is cured for the steering head, I will get the bearings in and put the whole triple clamp assembly in, and then we'll mount the forks and we'll be well on our way. Then we can mount our new brakes and our front wheel on. So anyways, I'm gonna end the video here. I'd like to just thank you all for watching. Appreciate if you could give us a thumbs up and like our video. Please comment and subscribe as well, and we will catch you on the next video. Thank you.